boys and girls, it's your boy, it's JC for the JC Show, the podcast show with my special guest, Allan McCarthy, is coming up right about now. Allan,
Yeah,
how you doing, sir?
Hi, John. How are you?
How you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I can't. It's not allowing me to share this on. I can't see it coming up on your Facebook. I'm on your Facebook at the moment, looking at it, and I'm refreshing the screen. And
Don't worry about it now. So I'll do it after.
Right. Okay.
We're live now anyway. So how you doing, Allan?
Yeah, fine. It's actually nice and sunny in Glasgow at the moment, which is a nice change. I believe it's sunny down in Oxford as well, where you are.
Oh yes, beautiful sunshine. I just want to say welcome to the JC Show. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Can you introduce yourself to people that don't know you, please?
Yeah, my name's Allan McCarthy. I was born in Glasgow quite a few years ago now. And the sort of unusual part of the story is when I was very, very young, I was in Spain in the 1980s, Costa del Crime, and living the life of a little young kid over there, having a great time, playboy lifestyle. And then, unfortunately, I ended up getting a 6.5-year sentence and a 65 million fine for drug smuggling. So that put an end to things. Now, obviously, there's plenty of people on YouTube that have served time in Spain. There's plenty of people that have set longer sentences for more amounts of drugs or whatever. The sort of little unique sort of twist to my own tale is that whilst in prison in Spain, now this was the 1980s. It wasn't, PlayStations and toys and, mod cons. This was like, we were lucky to have electricity and food and water at different times. It wasn't nice. Franco had just left the charge of Spain. So Spain wasn't in the common market or European Union. No rules, no regulations. And they had decided that they were going to modernise Spain's prisons and try and rehabilitate people. So they started all these workshops. By a chance of fate, they decided to do a music workshop. I get involved, and the little band we formed, they entered as a bit of a joke in a national music competition. What they didn't know was we ended up winning it, and we got like a recording session and things like that to go and record music and things, and it fairly took off. So that's this little twist to the story, obviously, what makes the story a little bit different from MD. It's just been in jail. And I thought I was going to be a rock star in the 80s and 90s, but the prison loved our story at the start, and we were attracting good publicity. But then we started, acting like little divas. We're not doing this or we're not doing that, getting ideas above our station probably. So they quickly decided that we were becoming a pain in the butt. And the next thing I knew, I was in prison in Murcia in the south of Spain, which was, it wasn't nice, but it was relatively quiet and safe. A few hundred people in the prison. From there, I get transferred to like Supermax in Madrid, a place called Carabanchel, which at the time was the most brutal prison in the whole of Europe, according to Amnesty International. So I ended up finishing my sentence there, and that was just unbelievable. That was not nice at all. And any dreams I had of becoming a musician, right at the end of my sentence, I thought I was still going to be a musician, but they ended up deporting me. And it's crazy stuff. Now, I can't make this up because it's all over Facebook and on my own website, not all the paperwork. At the tender age of 28, the head of Spain's MI5, like their security services, asked the Chief Justice of the High Court in Spain I'd be deported and be banned from coming back to Spain. They considered me a threat to Spain's relations with other countries and a severe danger to Spain's internal security. I was only 28 at the time, you know what I mean? I don't know what they thought I was going to get up to. So that was my story. Until a couple of years ago, when a good friend of mine kept hearing about me talking about, I was a musician and wouldn't believe me. So she got me to go to try and track down my tapes of the original music, which I hadn't heard for over 30 years, we tracked down the tapes. And what I didn't know was that for more than 30 years, my music was still getting played in Spain. And not just by anyone. One of the biggest DJs in Spain, who was a young DJ when we started out, just liked us. And it just so happened that about 2 or 3 years ago, it was his 30th anniversary. So this guy's like the kind of John Peel of Spanish radio, like, and a guy Angel Sapena. He's done interviews with the Stones, the Beatles, Bob Dylan, you know, Oasis. He's on the TV, does his own newspaper column. And he was getting interviewed all over Spain because it was the 30th anniversary of his show. And he was asked everywhere, not just once, but in various different magazines, TV, radio, what his best moment. It's the kind of thing you ask on the, you know, the one show. What's your favourite moment, John, in all your podcasting career or whatever? And he said, oh, this guy, Allan McCarthy, I met when we went into the prison. What a story. And he was mentioning this all the time for 30 years. And that sparked an interest. So basically, he ran a bit in my story on Spain. And it went out in something like about 30 different newspapers just before Christmas 2 years ago. And that went out to an audience of something like 23 million people. So the whole thing suddenly took life again. And then, you know, since then I've been in, you know, most of the tabloids in the UK, The Sun, the Daily Record, the Evening Times, the Glasgow Herald. I've been on things like Top Radio Europe, which has got like 5 million listeners. I've done various radio shows, TV shows. No, so it's just taking a life of its own. And I don't know what's happening. You know, it just keeps, every time I think the story's dying, like a death, something else happens. I've been lucky enough to have really good people around me. I've got a couple of guys, Brian Anderson, who was the main photographer for like The Sun and The Mirror. He did all the crime photography music. He's put me in a couple of books, my story. He's about to produce a music video for me for his directorial debut. I just had a music video out last year, which you put on your page recently. And that was by a BAFTA winning director, a guy, Ian Henderson, who won a BAFTA a few years ago for Best Director. And he liked the song and decided to put a music video to it. So been really fortunate to have a lot of good people on my side, you know what I mean? And the other thing that, I mean, obviously, I've never made a penny out of this, you know what I mean? People are late, but I don't know where the money goes, but it doesn't go here. But in the last couple of years, because obviously I had the conviction and all that, and, you know, the lifestyle, you know, and in my later years, I've decided, you know, I get a better lifestyle, and I sort of got clean for the drugs, the booze, and stuff like that a couple of years ago. And it kind of, if I can get a message out, you know, to the kids, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Not suddenly become a saint or anything like that, but if it helps somebody else that's maybe struggling, they've got a sentence and thinks, well, look, what do I do? Well, if I can turn it around, and I had a really bad sentence in a really bad place, and if I can come out the other end of it, well, smiling some days.
Yeah, I think it's amazing what you're doing.
The
now,
same
like
with the, you know, with the drugs and the alcohol, because I had a massive problem with it. I can do it, and I was one of those like hopeless cases they talk about. You know, the nurses used to seem just like shake their heads, think, "Oh, here he is again in hospital or rehab." So
I think
that's that. Just glad to be alive in these days. You know, getting out like this morning.
Yeah, I think it's amazing how you can transform yourself from what you were to what you are today. You know, that's the thing that counts, is what you are today. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I've got sometimes I get a bit ungrateful because, like, you know, the music career isn't maybe progressing as fast as I want it to, or I see other people getting success. And I've got to think, like, less than 2 years ago, I was on a golf resort in Spain, Mar Menor Golf Resort, 5-star golf resort, right? And I hadn't left my apartment for 6 months. When I got clean, it'll be 2 years ago in May, came up in my Google Maps that I had done 10 kilometres in the previous 6 months. That was the total distance I had travelled, and that was 5 kilometres in an ambulance to the hospital and 5 kilometres back in a taxi when he kicked me out. And yet I thought I was living this fantastic lifestyle. I'm on, I've got a luxury apartment on a 5-star golf resort, but I never left the apartment. I was just there doing, Colombia's finest export 24/7, and people would just come up, and I was like just off my head all the time. And I thought that was the life. And it was crazy because less than a year later, I gave up smoking last July. And within a week, I went out and I posted it on Facebook because I'm not telling you how long it took me because it wasn't fast. But within a week of giving up smoking, I ran 10 kilometres. Yet I hadn't done that the year before in 6 months. You know what I mean? I managed to do it, get up and run after a week off the cigarettes. So, and I'm no spring chicken either, you know what I mean? So if I can do it, and there's kids in their 20s and 30s that are struggling with, addiction or whatever, look, if I can do it, and if you seen me, you wouldn't have believed the states I was in sometimes, you know what I mean? So it's proof that, MD can change, you just got to, I surrounded myself with good people, got, help through various different, recovery fellowships and things like that. And stop listening to my own head, because my head's the biggest danger. I thought I was doing great and I'm living the rock and roll lifestyle, and started to listen to sensible people that are telling me you're a nutcase. You know what I mean? You're in a hell of a state, you know what I mean? But the recovery thing, obviously, you have good days, you have bad days, but it's a heck of a lot better than it was this time 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And that's it's not my intention to force it down people's throats, but just saying, well, look, if I can do it, you can do it. You know what I mean?
Well, at least you proved you can do it. You know what I mean? If you've got the willpower, you can do it. You can achieve anything if you've got the willpower.
That's it. I know. I mean, you have to want to do it yourself, because before I got off the drugs, I had been for a long time not drinking, but I did that for my partner because she moaned at me. So I did it for her, and I wasn't doing it for myself. And if you don't do things for yourself, it ends up failing. You can't do, like, if you give up smoking because your partner doesn't want to smoke, all you'll end up doing is hating your partner because she's stopping you smoking. You know what I mean? Or whatever it is that you do. If you give up something, it's just people pleasing, and you've got to end up doing it if you want to do it, because I was the world's worst. If somebody told me to do something, even if it was for my own good, I'd do the exact opposite. You know what I mean? Somebody's giving me good advice, go like this, do that, and I'll do the exact, I was murdered for that all my life. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's the crazy things you look back on. For example, I got a 65 million fine. It was originally a 56 million fine, right? I only found this out recently. But when I went into court, and the option was I was getting a 6-year sentence and a 56 million fine, or I could do an extra 6 months if I didn't pay the fine. And this is documented. I didn't believe it until I seen it in the papers, how much an idiot. I, on trial, told the judge that instead of him giving me, I would quite prepare to do an extra year if they would give me the money, which was ludicrous to say that to a judge. Apparently, the judge went purple in the court. He was banging his hammer, away. And the upshot was I ended up getting, instead of 6 years, I got 6.5 years. And instead of 56 million, I got 65 million. And I thought it was hilarious. Nobody's seen this. And I get taken down the stairs in the court. And, you can imagine the guards at the court thought I was a comedian. Then they battered me absolutely silly. And then the van on the way back to the prison, they explained how funny they thought I was, and they thought I was a comedian. And I got the same when I arrived back at the prison. Every gate that was passed through, I'd get a slap. I couldn't walk for a month. And see, the thing was, nobody else in the whole planet heard about this for over 30 years. When they were running a bit out my story, and they brought up the court transcripts going, what an idiot this guy was, trying to make fool of the judge, that. Well, you don't win, if you try and take the pee out the judge can just, you know what I mean? So, you learn by, well, so I didn't learn by mistakes. I'm doing that now, you know what I mean? Trying to learn by my mistakes and stuff. Hopefully get my age, get on and maybe do something with the music. Maybe get but keep getting asked about doing a book about the story, because obviously I can explain little bits of the life, you know what I mean? But there's not many people that have had the same sort of experiences, because the couple of prisons I was in for the longest time, the first one, if you remember the French Connection film, in French Connection 2, the sort of true life story of the Marseille Mafia.
Yeah.
The drummer in my band was the driver for my best friend, who was the nephew of the guy in the French Connection films. You know, that's crazy stuff. And then when I get put up to Madrid Carabanchel, if you go and look at it, I don't need to tell this, anybody can find this out in Google. If you watch Narcos and stuff like that,
yeah,
about the Colombian cartels, how the Colombian cartels get into Europe was the Guzman brothers, I think it was, and Ramon Escobar, Pablo's brother, were doing deals with the Prime Minister of Spain at the time, and they ended up in Carabanchel. And they were living it was crazy, and they were bribing all the guards and all that, and that's how in the 80s and 90s, that's how cocaine ended up coming into Europe. Because when the top guys in the Medellin cartel get in prison in Spain, they end up meeting Galician pirates, you know, the University of Crime, they call it, prison. And that's how the cocaine started coming into Europe, because the Galicians wanted independence from Spain. And they would have brought the cocaine in for nothing, but obviously the businessmen, they brought it in, they charged for it, just to screw the Spanish population. And that's how cocaine, there was no cocaine. Anybody that's older at my age will tell you there was no cocaine in the UK, hardly to speak of. It wasn't flooding into Europe. They were sending it from Colombia to Florida. Why would they send it to Europe? But all of a sudden, when the Medellin cartel and the Cali cartel got their guys in prison in Spain, they started reaching out to other people that they met in prison, and that's how the whole cocaine epidemic came about. And that's the opening scenes from Narcos, and that actually take place in Carabanchel prison, you know, where they all meet and they decide that, we're going to do this big business deal. That's all Carabanchel. I can't make this up, you know. You do the math, work out when I was there, work out when that took place, and that's the story, you know what I mean? It's crazy stuff.
Yeah,
but that's a different lifestyle.
Yeah, so tell the viewers more about the Berlin 90. Tell the viewers more about your band that you formed in prison.
Right, the Berlin 90 thing. Right, what happened was they were doing just a little guitar workshop to sort of try and... Spain was trying to get into Europe at the time. So one of the stipulations by the European community was Spain had to modernise its prisons. So Amnesty International came in the late 80s. Did a thing called the Helsinki Report, which just basically described the conditions as totally horrendous, atrocious. Anybody that's interested can look it up. It's called the Helsinki Report. And it was the late 80s. It came out by Amnesty International and described Spain's prisons as the worst in the world, basically. So in order for Spain to come into the European community, which Spain was dying to get into, they had to reform the prisons. Part of that was, you know, reintegrating and rehabilitating the inmates, improving the conditions. So they were trying to get any sort of publicity. And one of the workshops was a guitar workshop. Now, this will sound like I am the biggest bullshit artist, sorry for the language, in the world when I explain this, but you can go onto my website and you can actually see it, and you can go and Google all the programs. We started off as a couple of guitars, like the Spanish acoustic guitar things, and a guy called Juanjo Gomez Ayala, who, unknown to us, was a very famous Spanish guitar player. He did like jazz, rock, and things like that, and blues, and he'd been a session musician in like Chicago and New York, and he was a very nice guy, and he was wanted to help people, you know, through music. So he's decided to done a workshop. So I get involved, and there's a guy that worked in the kitchen. We get involved, and then he said, well, look, if you two can do a little like show kind of thing, we'll get some money for like, electric guitars and drums and all that, but you need to do this show. So we came to a compromise. There was a thing coming up in the women's module every year where they have the families, and it's like the International Day of Mercy. So the deal was, if we could get a band together, they would, the local council would give us a donation for like a set of drums and a bass and electric guitars, and we had to go and play it. And the council would come out and take photographs and all that, you know what I mean? So we had to do 3 songs, 10 minutes was like, and that's what we thought we were doing. So we did, because it was for the kids, we did, the song La Bamba, which is in Spanish, and the kids would love that. That's just twist and shout, the same chords. So I could sing twist and shout, the other guy would sing La Bamba. We did a song called Europa by Santana because neither of us wanted to sing. And we can do that Santana guitar solo for as long as it took. But then the sticky bit came in. They decided that because it was like the council arts funding and all that we had to do something we wrote ourselves. So we had to do our own song. So the other guy was working in the kitchen, so he didn't have the time, and I basically was just bumming about. So I said, I'll write a song, right? And we never had the time to rehearse it, but I showed them the chords and how to play it, one of the breaks, and that was it. Now, this is 1991. In those days, if MD that's a bit older will remember the old Amstrad like cameras people got, that was the rage. So for publicity, people were working about. They would be filming the sports day, they'd be filming the prize giving, somebody get an award or something. They would film it, just for publicity, for anything that was good. So it wasn't unusual to see cameras about. But what we didn't realise was while we were playing live, it just so happened that one of the Spanish TV stations had sent a camera crew in because he thought this will be a fun story. Now, our first concert went out on a Sunday afternoon at 12 o'clock. We didn't know this. We didn't know it went out on the equivalent of Spain's. Remember Ant and Deck show on a Saturday morning?
Yeah.
There was a program called Chickalandia. You can still Google it. So our first 10-minute, 15-minute concert went out live on national television at lunchtime for the kids. And by the time that's went out on you're in Oxford, so it's went out on TV Oxford on lunchtime on the news. By 5 o'clock at night, it's went out on ITV News England. And then by the 10 o'clock news that night, it's went out on ITV, the whole of the UK and Ireland or whatever. So our stories are way out there. But we didn't know anything about it. And the next thing that we know is we haven't had, the prisons had all these radio stations phoning in. So they've decided that they will allow the mobile recording thing, like the Radio 1 van goes out to festivals and that. They've decided that, they can come in and they'll record us playing 2 songs. Now, they couldn't even get that right because I think they thought it was a wind-up. So they've had the equivalent of Radio 1's outside broadcast coming in, and they've had Virgin Radio coming in. So there's 2 separate radio stations come in to record us, and they're both fighting over who can record us. And that is, we did our first concert on Saturday. We did then 2 songs, which I had to write on the following Saturday. So it's 6 days between our first 2 concerts. Our second concert, 2 songs, is live in the open prison for 2 radio stations going out nationally across Spain. And then a week after that, 2 weeks to the day after our first concert, they asked us to do 3 songs live on the Top 40 show in Spain. Now, we hadn't even rehearsed. We're doing 3 songs live on the Top 40 show. And obviously, this is in all the newspapers and the magazines and stuff like that. And at the same time, we weren't allowed out of the prison. So they'd entered us in this music competition. And it was like the equivalent of the X Factor nowadays, except it was like the Battle of the Bands, you had to play live. So obviously, we couldn't get out to play live. So they had a compromise, is they let a recording engineer in with his equipment to record us playing a live set. So it could prove that we could play live, and that was our sort of entry into this competition. And it got all obviously this has gone on over a period of months, and eventually we actually won a recording session to go out and record a couple of songs. Now, I wasn't even convicted at the time or anything like that, and it was absolute chaos and carnage. We literally had a fleet of armoured cars taking us to between the prison and PM recording studios in Murcia. And if you don't believe me telling it, you can actually go on my website and you can hear, like, without me being there, like this guy Angel Sapena, Spain's top DJ, talking about it with the original producer when the story came out again, that their memories of it, because I've got no memories of, because I was locked in an armoured car, you know, I didn't have much of a view of it. But we actually, they were saying it was like unbelievable. There was the like helicopters, outriders, armoured cars, you know, like, you know, all arriving at this recording studio, all the press. And what I didn't realise until 30 years later when I got told this, one of the Spanish guys, he was, the bass player was one of Spain's top armed robbers. And this is the prison guards telling me this story live on Spanish radio because they hooked us up for a good story. Here's Allan meeting the old prison guards, you know, live on the radio. And they're busy telling us the day we were at the recording studio, the bass player had a couple of guys outside in a car with guns to break him out. But he ended up, he was having such a good time doing the recording studio. He's got a message out to the guys waiting. No, don't do it just now. Break me out later. This is like absolutely unheard of. And obviously, we did our little recording session. The music became a hit, and we all thought we were going to go out and become rock stars and all that, you know what I mean? And I have to admit, you know, we were acting a bit like divas, you know, like the guards, because they'd be causing, you know what I mean, they're causing us pain for a while. We were getting it back, you know, if the recording time, I'm like that. I'm not going out to the radio station until I have a shower. And then I'm going, but the showers don't come on at 12 o'clock. You're doing the radio at 9 o'clock. And I'm going, well, I'm not going out then. They're going, you can't do that. You know what I mean? And obviously, it's a battle of wills. And for the publicity, they would let us go out. But there's always payback. You know what I mean? You think you're winning, but you know what I mean? You don't win against like the establishment in that long term. And one of the things was what none of us realised at the time, the band members that is like there was a lot of people that were doing a lot of things to help us, and we were a bit ungrateful because as far as we were concerned, it was us and them, but it wasn't, because half of the guards in the prison had been brought up under the days of Franco. And for any of the young kids that don't know Franco was mates with Hitler, you know what I mean? So they're brought up in a fascist regime that basically they can take you and shoot you if you want you. You know, so when Franco got deposed and the new democracy came in, it didn't change the prison system overnight. So you've got guys there that have come out for university that want to help you and, you know, rehabilitate you. Whereas the other guys, they think they should be eating bread and water and be out in the sun breaking rocks. So there's a conflict there between 2 points of view. And obviously we're part of the focal point for that because they're using us as the sort of figureheads for rehabilitation. And for everything that the good guys, shall we say, the sort of educators and psychologists and all the guys at uni that are trying to rehabilitate, they're trying to get us, you know, permission to do this and permission to do that. And it's putting the old guard out of joint, you know, because they don't think we should be getting, you know, to play on the radio, or we shouldn't get out, you know, and getting, you know, being allowed, instead of being locked up in the cell 24 hours, then playing music. And they don't think that's right. They think we should be getting, you know, basically, if not punished, we shouldn't be enjoying ourselves, you know what I mean? That's still the case, I think, even in the UK, you know what I mean? In the moment,
yeah,
you know, they don't want to rehabilitate you, they want to punish you. You know, so you just come out of the prison 10 years later, just even better, even more bitter or whatever.
So you're still doing music today then?
Yeah. Behind you there, I've got a little 8-track recording studio. I still keep my hand in. I was back with the original producer and things like that last year, just before I moved back to the UK. And it'd be my dream. I mean, obviously, people are hearing some of the music. Now, we used to go out and play, like, for hours of songs, you know, hundreds of songs, you know, and they've just picked a couple of songs at random that playing. So if people like the music that's out there, there's hundreds more songs that are equally as good or better, because, you know, when they deported out of Spain 34 years ago, didn't stop writing songs, and you know what I mean? But just haven't had the opportunity to record them or anything like that. You know what I mean? I'd love to do some with the music, because last year I was over at a recovery convention in Torrevieja, and while we were there, we got some footage for Brian Anderson, my pal. He's going to make a video for one of the songs, Stormy Waters, because it's the 35th anniversary of the song being recorded. So we were taking footage at the prison, and with the old DJ and with some of the prison staff and things like that. Now, at the same time, live on Spanish radio, the DJ was kind of joking with the prison staff about it'd be a great story if we could get the guys back to do a concert. But unfortunately, the other band members are either dead or disappeared. You know what I mean? It's just myself. But I was offered live on radio, so it's all backed up, and we've looked into it. You know, if I wanted to go back and do like a concert at the prison, you know, so it'll be 35 years next St. Patrick's Day, for example. That'd be a decent date, give plenty of time to rehearse. But I've got the opportunity to go back and play a concert in the same prison. But it's kind of who would fund that. Obviously, I'd need to have a band and go over there and rehearse and, you know, get it for the radio station would cover it, Spanish press and that would cover it. But it's trying to find, you know, who would pay for, you know, flights, accommodation. You know, could it be a heck of a story, you know, for a documentary? And that would be amazing. And also, like, I keep getting asked about doing a book, because I don't have. It's not just the lifestyle in prison. There's a lot happened before and after. Obviously, I was living in the Costa del Crime in the 80s, where all of the people that you knew, you heard about in the television. And then, obviously, I've been 30 years since that, you know what I mean? And the story didn't, you know what I mean? There's a lot of story in between. And, but I just am either too lazy or I've got a brain block. I can't sit down and write anything, but I've got it in my head and I've written down, you know, enough for hours and hours worth of stuff. But if anybody's out there that's a fledgling writer and wants to help us write, get in touch, please, because it'd be nice to get a book out and the documentary out for it being 35 years.
I'll tell you what I could probably do for you. In the I know it's not in Spain, it's in the UK, but I might be able to get you like eventually. I can sit down and talk to you about it after. Maybe do like a homecoming gig here in England, where you can go. I can get you the accommodation and the venue, and you can just perform there. You know what I mean? As a homecoming gig sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I'll get my team.
Because I mean, I've got hundreds of goodwill, because like, every time I do something in the press and stuff like that, I get people love the story and they keep telling me that should be a documentary, it should be a film. I've had people that are going round apparently trying to get a film made of the story. You know what I mean? Said it'd be a great like movie. You know what I mean? Some, obviously not me doing it. Some, you know, because it's rags to riches come recovery story. They think it'd be good. But these things obviously take a lot of time, because people have got to get budgets and all. And, you know, I've had a lot of people that are interested, but you don't know until, you know, everything's signed and dotted. But there's, you know, the amount of people that have shown interest, you know, you start to think, well, they can't all be wrong. You know what I mean? It's a lot of film companies, Netflix people, Amazon, the various TV stations, radio companies, they all show interest and think it's a great story, but it just keeps coming recycling, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere. It's not like I can be promoting a book or a new single, or I don't have anything to actually sell. You know what I mean? Most people go on podcasts and it's to promote their book or their film or their new single or whatever. I'm not actually selling anything, you know what I mean? I don't have anything, you know, tangible at the moment, you know, to promote.
Well, you do.
So it'd be great, you know.
Alan, you do in a way, because your singles, for example, you've got the copy of them. Yeah, like I said to you the other day.
Yeah.
You can sell them online. You can make money that way, doing that way like that on there. You know. So you do have the
Yeah.
means to do certain things. You know what I mean? But it's obviously getting it done right. You can sell it like an Amazon Music and places like that, and Apple iTunes and all stuff like that.
Yeah,
You know?
because
But they're good songs. They're really good songs. I love them. They're good
yeah,
songs.
because up till now, obviously, I've not been promoting it right, because if you think about it, if I had 23 million views on the first newspaper article in Spain, and then the Sun, when my video for Runaway launched, the Sun put it out, but unfortunately, they just they didn't link to like a YouTube channel. I didn't have a YouTube channel, and when the newspaper article came out, I didn't have a website at that point. So they were just putting it up, and I wasn't getting any tangible benefit from it, which is obviously, you know, I don't have anyone guiding me or anything like that. It's just, you know, things just, the universe just, things just fall into place. Like when the Sun was surreal, because I did the Sun interview in the morning. They just phoned up, you know, and we want to do an article on you. And I was actually flying out to Spain at like 12 o'clock or something like that, and I was meant to get the train down to Prestwick. And the Sun are on, and ended up having to phone, while the Sun's still talking to me, I had to phone the local taxi company and end up getting a taxi, like about 100 mile in a taxi to get to the airport, and I only just got on the flight. And then it's funny, see the little picture you see there in the background there, up there, yeah. I'm pointing at. That is actually was in the background of my interview in the Sun magazine from my villa in Spain, because I managed to just over to Spain, and they, we need to put you, you know, just talk 30 seconds with something in the background. So we did that off the villa in Spain. And then I was flying back on the day I was flying back, it came out, and they linked my video, the one that you've got at Runway.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it wasn't linked. I didn't have it linked to on a YouTube channel or anything like that. I just sent them the video. You know, so it was just, you know, the same newspaper things, and they all came out. Nobody was guiding me to say, oh, you need to start a YouTube channel, or you need to promote it on Facebook. It's great to hear. So lots of publicity, but I mean, it's financial. But I wasn't in it for the money, but it would be a bit nice to have some sort of comfort, because like when I came back from Spain last year, I said from Spain 18 months ago, I think it was now. I ended up coming back, and I had no electricity, no gas for about the first 6 months. You know, brutal. You know, having to readjust because of the problems. The drinking, the drugs, and all that. So, it's thinking it's all villas in the Sun. You know, it's not. You know, look at the downsides. There are kids that think it's all glam. I've got a bit more sort of clean time behind me, and you know what I mean, focusing on the good things in life. It'd be nice to be able to like do things like the concerts. I've been fortunate enough, I've done a couple of prisons through the different recovery fellowships, where I've went in and spoke to like inmates and that, saying, well, look, I've got clean off alcohol or drugs, depending on the fellowship, you know what I mean, and they can obviously relate, you know.
Yeah,
it's like lived experience. You know, if I go in as a psychologist or something like that, they'll just think you're an idiot. But they can see I've done the time as well. You know, so it's not somebody they can relate to a bit. And if they can see that I can do it, you know what I mean? Maybe gives them a bit of hope and all that. And it's not just me that's doing that. There's lots of other people there going about doing that.
Well, put it this way, you can always count on me to give you a helping hand.
Sorry?
You know, you can always count on me to give you a helping hand. You know.
Thanks.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, because there's plenty of things out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You just gotta like before you know it, things will just like appear out of nowhere, and they'll just like fall into place. You know.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I keep thinking that nothing's happening, and you get kind of frustrated. But when I look earlier this year, I was in. My friend Brian Anderson brought out a book, Shooting the Mob, about his time as a crime photographer for The Sun and the Daily Record and the Mirror and things like that. And his book has got things like, Freddie Foreman, from that era, Ferris and that in Glasgow. It's got Paul Massey, all the well-known top guys. And then there's little old me in it as well, you know what I mean? And I'm like, what the heck am I in here for? And Brian's been great for me. And like, I mean, every week or something like that, something happens, there's a different news story or stuff like that, you know what I mean? And it's just that it just seems surreal sometimes, like doing like the radio and stuff like that. And you're doing a radio show and there's a million listeners, and you're like, you know what I mean? And then you go back to your daily lifestyle. It's not like you get a million listeners on the radio and then you go back and you get chauffeur driven to your villa.
Yeah.
Doing the radio station, then getting the bus back home. You know what I mean? Corporation bus, back to the little flat. You know what I mean? It's like, but it'd be great to get,
Yeah. So what's the link to your website?
The website, if anyone just puts in to like Google search berlin90.com, berlin90.com, or you can just Google my name, allanmccarthy.com, and it links to the same website. And you can see there's like all the newspaper articles. You can't make it up. There's like the Spanish, and it links to all, and you can see it. I'm in 30 different double-page spreads on it. There's things like Paisley Radio, a million listeners on that. There's Talk Radio. You can download all the stuff. They can listen to the music as well for free. There's all the stock. There's a few songs on there. There's music videos, and there's stuff about the prison. There's loads of tabs at the top. You see the more, and you can click on. There's all the podcasts, things, interviews. There's interviews in English, interviews in Spanish. You can download a few songs and things like that we've managed to salvage from back in the day. And it'd be, like you said, it'd be great to get the opportunity to go in and record new material, because the people like what they heard. Those songs were recorded under very strange circumstances, like the music video song called Runaway. Now, that was filmed last year in Barhead by Ian Henderson, who's a BAFTA-winning director. However, the song was actually recorded live with no rehearsals in Murcia Prison in 1991. And people were listening to it going, that sounds okay, that sounds good. And we're like, yeah, but like, that's live. That's like 4 inmates of a prison. We've never played the song before. You know what I mean? And we think that's good. Hopefully it would sound, I'm not saying it would sound better, I don't know. But if we got the chance to go into a modern recording studio and, with a bit more experience, hopefully I'd manage to get something better out, you know what I mean? But that's like, I don't know how the old voice is anymore. And, certainly can still play the guitar. And would people like the music still? Hopefully they would. I'd love to get a chance to do it.
Yeah, well, like I said, to wrap it up in a nutshell, I'm always here for you, mate. If I can help you in any way with any social media stuff,
appreciate that. Thanks, John.
Or getting your music out there for you, and that's it. Then just give me a shout, mate. I'm always available to it, and I'll always take your call, mate. I'll always be there to help you.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
I know what it's like. Sometimes you need a helping hand. Sometimes I'm the same. Sometimes you don't. You can't always get them on your own. Sometimes you need a little bit of help to help you. because things have changed
Yeah.
now. Times have changed. You know, it's not the same as it used to be back in the day. It's a lot more harder now. You know.
Yeah, that's what I found out for doing all the recovery fellowships. You
Yeah.
can't do a lot of things on your own. You need
No.
to rely on other people, and it's sometimes hard. My generation, we were never brought up to, you're meant to do things on your own. You weren't meant to, ask for help or say you're having a bad day. You're meant to just tough it out. And it doesn't work. You do have to get help off other people, to get better. So I appreciate the offers anyway, John.
Yeah, no problem, mate. Yeah. So, is there anything else you want to add before we say goodbye
No,
to the
just
lovely podcast?
it's great to that's me. It's funny because on Tuesday there, St. Patrick's Day is quite ironic. That was 34 years ago on St. Patrick's Day that I got out of the jail.
Yeah.
It's amazing that I'm still alive now, you know what I mean, after all I've been through. So it's good, you know what I mean? It's a nice sunny day, so that always improves everyone's mood. And I'm clean, I'm sober, and that's it. And, thanks for making that a nice Saturday afternoon for us. I appreciate it. Hey, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Right. Right.
But
Thanks to everyone that's listening.
Yeah, but I just want
Cheers.
to say thank you. I just want to say a big thank you to you, Alan, for coming on, giving up your afternoon for the viewers, and for me as well, giving you your time as well. I really do appreciate it. And I'm pretty sure in the future there'll be a few more coming up with you as you progress within your journey. I want to try and document it as well, so give people an insight of what you're doing now and the good work you're going to be doing in the future. And I'm going to work. I want to work with you on this journey. You deserve a good story, and you deserve your story to be out there. So
I appreciate it, John. Thanks.
That's what I could say in the matter.
Right, thank
and
you.
I hope that you managed to hear me okay. I heard you crystal clear. I just want to say once again, Alan, thank you very much for coming on the JC podcast.
You're welcome, and hopefully we'll see each other soon.
Yes, mate. Oh, man,
Right.
well, you take care and have a lovely afternoon, and yeah, I'll start shelling the hell out of this story for you.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Thank you, mate. God bless. Stay safe.
Bye. Bye.
Yeah, just a big thank you to Allan McCarthy for coming on the JC show and giving you an insight of the life and the trials, the tribulations of what it's like from the 80s, 90s, 2000s, from an ex-drug smuggler to a musician. I just a big thank you to Allan again for coming on and sharing his great story with you viewers, the world, and everything, because he deserves what he's doing now as a musician. He deserves the things, the places he's going to be going in the future. And me, as a friend now, the JC, is going to be supporting and documenting and sharing with you lovely people what Allan McCarthy is going to be doing in the world of music and helping you youngsters out there that crime don't pay. So always remember, you youngsters, you young adults, the things you got away with in the 80s and the 90s, you will hell never give it away with it in 2000s, because you've got the big brothers in the sky, you've got the cameras, you've got the social medias, you've got everything, you've got the platforms that will get you in serious trouble. So my message to you guys is stay away from crime and do things positive. And once again, thank you for Allan for coming on the show today, mate. I appreciate it. From me, JC, to you, from sunny Oxford. Take care, God bless, stay safe. Allan, thank you, mate. Cheers.